Hello, my name is Mary Helm, and I'm going to be talking about immigration and agriculture, a case study of migrant farm workers in California. So, we are going to be talking about the United States as a whole, and then we're going to zoom in on California. All right, so let's talk about immigration. The official definition of immigration is the act of travel into a country for the purpose of permanent residence there. So currently 1 in 7 U.S. residents is an immigrant. Of those, 24% immigrate from Mexico. An average of 1 million people immigrate to the United States every year. So this is a kind of a hard number to figure out due to illegal immigration, but the United States is taking in a large amount of people every year. So a large part of the agricultural industry is immigrants. The industry of agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting has the largest share of immigrant workers. Agriculture. So what is grown in the United States? The biggest crop in the United States is corn. On average, the U.S. produces 14 billion bushels of corn. After corn, we have soybeans at number 2 and then hay at number 3. So what percent of farm workers are immigrants? Anywhere from 50 to 60% of farm workers are immigrants. This number does fluctuate a bit with the years, but is still a majority. And yeah, they're the largest share of farm workers, and they're feeding the United States. All right, so here we have a map of the U.S., and then this is a chart from the New American Economy showing that California, which is the top row, has the largest percent of foreign-born people working in agriculture. So they have 80% of their population in agriculture is foreign-born, and 40% of those are undocumented. All right, so let's talk about California. Immigration in California. So California currently has a population of 40 million, and then a little under 3 million of those are immigrants. So 13% of California's population are immigrants. The largest percent of migrant workers in the U.S. are in California. So why is this? This is because California is very close to Mexico. It's very easy to immigrate there because of the border. And 61% of immigrants in California come from Mexico. So they're taking in a large amount of people. So let's talk about agriculture in California. What is currently grown in California? So California grows on over 200 crops. So almonds, pistachios, flowers, because that is considered a crop. Tomatoes, oranges, whatever you can think of, it's being grown in California. The economy in California and agriculture. So agriculture is only 3% of California's GDP. However, agriculture exports are $25 billion annually in California. Its farmers produce over 1/3 of the vegetables in the United States, and California accounts for 12.5% of all agricultural production in the United States. So 3% of their GDP, but just huge amounts. They're producing, like I said, 12.5%. So this is quite a lot of crops, quite a lot of workers. So let's talk about some of the challenges that migrant farm workers face. So a large percent of them are undocumented, which comes with its own set of challenges. There's also issues that relate to women, and then health issues. So their undocumented status. So people who are immigrating, undocumented, are they're leaving their home country for whatever reason, political unrest, financial situation, sometimes violence. They're traveling, miles and miles on foot, by car, whatever, having to, get into the United States. And they're in a very vulnerable condition. They're coming here with little money. They don't speak English sometimes, and so they're just in a very vulnerable position, and this allows them to be taken advantage of. So, they get a job in agriculture, and they can't really speak out against their boss. They're in this dynamic where even if they know the working conditions are not sanitary or not up to par, they can't say anything because they fear losing their job. They fear their boss is gonna go to ICE, threatening deportation, and they live in fear of constant deportation. This population also often does not live in the best of conditions. So a lot of migrant farm workers live in almost like camps. They have these kind of like very basic shelters where multiple people are sleeping. They sleep in their cars, wherever they can. They don't have access to water and basic sanitation. So they're, not living in the best conditions. So women's issues, physical and sexual harassment and assault. So this is rampant in the farm worker community, especially with, immigrant, undocumented women. 80% of women state that they have experienced some type of sexual harassment or assault. And again, this is brought on by, the vulnerability they're under, this power dynamic. They're unable to speak out against their employers. They're often, threatened immediately. If you speak out, you're going to lose your job. This is their only source of income. It's not easy to find a job if you're undocumented, or, you're going to be deported. So, they're just living under a lot of fear. So let's talk about health issues. So the average life expectancy of a farm worker is only 49 years. And, farm work, you are working in harsh conditions. You're working under the sun. Often these people this population is not consuming enough water to make up for the amount that they're sweating out, or they don't have access to water. They also face the unique challenge of pesticide poisoning. So the EPA estimates that 300,000 farm workers are poisoned by pesticides each year nationwide, but many cases are not reported. So the symptoms include irritation of skin and eyes, irritability to touch and sound, abnormal facial sensations, or just general, tingling, numbness, headache, dizziness, nausea, vomiting. Severe cases can lead to fluid in your lungs and seizures. Pesticide poisoning often goes unrecognized because the patient may present with a non-specific illness, so it makes it difficult to diagnose. And often, headache, you're irritated, you don't really, that's not anything to immediately go to the doctor about sometimes. And this is brought on by just repeated exposure to these pesticides. So, and then COVID-19. So this population faced their own set of challenges. So farm workers are considered essential workers, so they were allowed to continue to work. But due to the conditions which they live in, they often do not have access to quarantining, hand washing. Farm workers are shown to have less access to clean water and hand washing, just more less sanitary conditions to work in. And so it just spread, very quickly through the population. So let's talk about some current issues. So this is an article that was published on 11/14. Under rain, under thunder, where they're working. Current farm workers head to Washington seeking protections, path to citizenships. So this is Flor Alvarado and her daughter. So she is a previous farm worker who is lobbying the United States to get more protections for this population. So she was a immigrant farm worker, as is her mother. So she got out of farm working, got a different job, and now she's just trying to make the conditions better for everyone else. So she is working with a group that is trying to get the Farm Workers Modernization Act of 2021 passed. So she and her group are trying to fly to Washington to lobby. So some of these reforms include a H-2A visa extension, so this is a farm working visa. There will also provide a path for laborers to earn legal status and sue their bosses when they violate labor laws. So even if what their boss is doing is technically illegal, sometimes the worker is not allowed to sue for the violation of their rights. So this would kind of open up that, so they would be able to get compensation for that happening. So then we have our sources. And there we are. Thank you so much.